At the start of the story, we are introduced to a man named Nicky who is dining at a five-star hotel. Suddenly, a woman named Jess approaches him. She asks him to pretend to be her boyfriend for a while, claiming that a man is following her and leering at her. Nicky agrees to help. In reality, this was all part of Jess's plan to rob Nicky. The two of them head up to a room and begin to get intimate. Just then, a man claiming to be Jess's husband bursts into the room and points a gun at Nicky. Instead of panicking, Nicky looks at the gun and calmly says, "Go ahead, shoot." Sensing that their bluff has been called, Jess admits that they've been caught and their plan has failed. Nicky then reveals that he knew about their scheme from the very beginning. He knew the whole thing was a performance staged to rob him. He offers them a piece of advice. When you're pulling a con, you can never let the truth out until the job is done. You have to keep the lie going until you've succeeded. As it turns out, Nicky was no ordinary man. He was a world-class professional thief, while Jess used to be a small-time thief, focusing on wallets, bracelets, and rings. Nicky told her that if she wanted to become a truly great thief, she had a lot to learn. After following her for a while, Nicky realized she had a natural talent. He began teaching her the art of misdirection, how to hypnotize a target by controlling their focus. He demonstrated this practically by talking to her and stealing her belongings right under her nose without her even noticing. His core lesson was simple. To steal from someone, you must first capture their attention. Once their mind is distracted, that is when you make your move. Some time passed before they met again. Jess pleaded with him to let her join his crew so she could become a professional thief. Nicky was hesitant at first, but after her repeated requests, he finally agreed. Soon after, they were joined by a man named Horst, who was a key member of Nicky's team. Horst welcomed Jess to the crew, and the three of them shared some lighthearted banter. Nicky led a massive, well-organized team of professional thieves. They headed to a busy, market-like area to begin their operation. Their strategy was based on teamwork. One person would perform the lift, the actual theft, and immediately pass the stolen goods to another teammate who would disappear into the crowd. This was a major test for Jess. Nicky wanted to see if she was truly skilled enough to earn a permanent spot on his elite team. As it turned out, Jess performed her role flawlessly, proving her worth. The team had a specific game to manipulate the crowd. At one point, Nicky began shouting aggressively at Jess in public. Jess was caught off guard because she didn't realize this was part of the plan. As Nicky created a loud, dramatic scene, every bystander in the area turned to watch them. While the crowd was fixated on the argument, Nicky's team moved like shadows, stealing bags and valuables from the distracted onlookers. Nicky's job was the distraction, while the rest of the crew handled the work. By the end of the day, it was clear that the city's hotels and restaurants were crawling with Nicky's people. It was a total takeover. In this operation, some worked in teams while others operated solo. They were experts at lifting credit cards and cloning all the data within seconds. Their skill was so refined that they could return the card to the victim's pocket or wallet before the person even realized it was missing. This speed was essential. If a victim noticed the theft, authorities would freeze the account within the hour, rendering the card useless. To gather even more data, they used a high-tech method involving ATM skimmers. They would install these fake devices over the card slots of legitimate ATM machines. The skimmer would silently copy the data from the magnetic strips of every card swiped, allowing the thieves to withdraw money at their convenience later. Later, Nicky returns to their secret hideout, the central hub where all the day's stolen goods are collected. The team consists of 30 highly trained professionals. They operate with a strict safety net. If any member is caught by the police, the organization uses bribes or greases palms to secure their release. At the end of the day, the total earnings are tallied and split among the members. While looking through the loot, a beautiful necklace catches Jess's eye, and she finds herself instantly drawn to it. Nicky warns the team that they must never keep stolen goods on their person for long. If they are caught with the evidence, they are finished. Amidst these high-stakes operations, a romance begins to spark between Nicky and Jess. In the next scene, we see Farhad and Jess planning their next move. Farhad suddenly fakes a heart attack, a calculated maneuver to seize the crowd's attention. As Farhad collapses, Jess screams for help, causing everyone nearby to rush toward them in a panic. This is exactly what the team was waiting for. While the bystanders are distracted by the medical emergency, the rest of the crew skillfully picks their pockets, taking wallets, watches, and mobile phones. They have mastered the psychology of human attention, knowing exactly how to manipulate focus to create an opening. During the chaos, Jess slides a watch off an elderly man's wrist and slips it into Farhad's pocket. Host snatches a wallet and hides it on himself. Later, Nicky gathers the team to share the results. After deducting all expenses, Their operations over the past week have brought in a staggering $1.2 million. Everyone was thrilled to hear about the massive payout. Nicky assured the team that their shares would be distributed on time. That night, they celebrated their success together before eventually heading their separate ways. The next day, Horst handed Nicky the $1.2 million but gave him a stern warning. Don't go gambling this money away. Despite the warning, Nicky and Jess went to watch a football game. To pass the time, they decided to start making small prop bets on specific outcomes. Nicky pointed out a spectator in the crowd and asked, "Do you think that guy will catch the ball?" He bet that the man would miss. When the ball came, the spectator failed to catch it, and Nicky won. Next, they targeted a girl who was about to exit the stadium. They made a bet based on how many people would turn their heads to look at her as she walked past. They agreed that whoever guessed the number correctly, or was the closest to it, would win $10. For some time, a Chinese man had been watching them. He eventually approached them and asked to join their game. His name was Liyuan. Nicky agreed to let him play. For the next bet, Nicky predicted that 3 people would turn to look at the girl as she left. Liyuan guessed 5, and Jess guessed 8. As the girl walked out, it turned out that 7 people looked at her. Since Jess's guess was the closest, she won the round. Both Nicky and Liyuan handed her $10 each. The stakes then jumped to $1,000. Jess, feeling out of her league, admitted she didn't know much about the game and decided to stop betting. Nicky, however, doubled down. He predicted that a penalty would be called in the match. Liyuan disagreed, betting that there would be no penalty. Liyuan lost this round and handed Nicky $1,000. Next, they moved to a $5,000 bet. Nicky hesitated for a while, debating whether to continue, but he eventually agreed. He felt confident because he was already playing with the house money, the $1,000 he just won. It was a classic example of how greed can lead a person toward their downfall. The man, Liyuan, then bets that the player will run with the ball but won't throw it. That is exactly what happens. The player runs but doesn't pass. Just like that, Nicky loses $5,000. As Nicky starts to walk away, Liyuan lures him back with a simple bet. He bets that the player will kick the ball into the goal. If it's a goal, Nicky wins. But once again, Nicky loses, dropping another $10,000. The more Nicky loses, the more furious he becomes. Blinded by anger, he raises the stakes to $50,000, betting that the player will kick the ball instead of running. He loses yet again when the player runs with the ball instead of kicking it. Jess desperately begs him to stop. "Stop gambling. Let's just get out of here," she pleads. But Nicky is beyond listening. In a fit of rage, he bets $100,000 that the player will drop a catch. Unfortunately, his streak of bad luck continues, and he loses that too. As he continues to double his bets in a desperate attempt to win back his losses, Jess grows terrified. She knows this money doesn't just belong to Nicky. It belongs to the entire team of 30 people. If he gambles it all away, he won't be able to pay his crew. She tries one last time to convince him to run away before they lose everything. Nicky completely ignores Jess's pleas. Unable to control his rage, he continues to escalate the stakes. He places a massive $1 million bet on a simple high card draw. Whoever draws the card with the highest value wins. But his streak of bad luck continues. His card is lower, and he loses yet again. Nicky is now in a desperate position. He has lost almost every cent they had. Instead of walking away, his anger pushes him to a breaking point. He proposes a final, staggering $2 million bet. The terms are insane. Liyuan will use binoculars to pick any one of the hundreds of players down on the field and memorize their jersey number. Nicky must then guess which player Liyuan chose. To make the game even more impossible, Nicky says he won't pick the number. Jess will. Liyuan is thrilled, thinking this is the easiest money he has ever made. He scans the field and settles on a player. Nicky turns to a terrified Jess and tells her to simply name the first number that comes to her mind. Panicking, Jess says she can't do it, but Nicky calms her down and insists that she trust her instincts. Finally, Jess looks at the field, picks a player, and shouts out the number, 55. The moment Jess shouts the number, Liyuan is stunned. She is absolutely right. They win the bet, taking home a staggering $4 million. Not only did Nicky recover everything he had lost, but he also walked away with 3 times his initial investment. They quickly pack the bags with cash and make their exit. Liyuan was a wealthy businessman known for his ego. If someone challenged him with a bizarre, high-stakes game, he couldn't resist betting millions. Nicky's entire meltdown was a calculated act designed to lure him into this trap. When Nicky's friend, Horst, had warned him not to gamble, that too was part of the performance. The entire team had been in on the plan, except for Jess. Every bit of her fear and panic was genuine, which made the con believable to Liyuan. When she finds out it was all a setup, She is completely shell-shocked. She asks Nicky, "What would have happened if you kept losing?" Nicky calmly replies that he would have kept betting until he won, because the game was rigged in their favor from the start. Despite their massive success, the story takes a sad turn. Jess thought they were building a real life together based on love, but Nicky decides it's time for them to part ways. Jess is left heartbroken, completely unprepared for the cold reality of the con artist lifestyle. Nicky never expected things to end this way, and neither did Jess. Despite appearances, Nicky did love her, but he chose to leave for the sake of their safety. He knew that as long as they were together, their emotional connection would make them vulnerable and easier to catch. 3 years pass. Nicky is approached by a champion racing driver named Garriga. Garriga possesses a revolutionary device that enhances a car's performance, allowing it to easily outpace any competition and win races. However, Garriga has a deceptive plan. He wants Nicky to sell a fake version of this technology to his rival, McEwen. The plan is to provide McEwen with a computer program component that seems to offer incredible speed at first, but is designed to fail and slow down during the actual race. Garriga wants to ensure his victory by sabotaging his opponent. He offers Nicky $1 million to carry out this high-stakes con. Garriga's head of security, an older man named Owens, deeply distrusts Nicky and watches his every move. To throw Owens off the scent and make the deal with the rival look believable, Nicky and Garriga stage a public falling out. They plan for Garriga to insult and push Nicky at a party the following night, creating the illusion that they are bitter enemies. The goal was to make McEwen and Nicky allies, and the plan worked perfectly. At the party, Nicky publicly denounced Garriga, calling him a thief and a fraud. This was a calculated move to catch McEwen's eye. However, just as Nicky was about to confront Garriga, he saw someone he didn't expect, Jess. Seeing that Jess was now Garriga's girlfriend hit Nicky hard. Distraught and fueled by alcohol, his fake anger turned into a real, drunken confrontation. Despite the emotional chaos, the plan was a success. Nicky caught McEwen's attention, and McEwen eventually invited him to be a partner. Nicky promised to provide a device that would revolutionize McEwen's car's performance for a fee of $3 million, and McEwen agreed. Later, Nicky asked Jess to meet him. He confessed that he still loved her and wanted to start over. Jess, however, was cold. She told him to forget the past, claiming she was much happier now and wouldn't leave Garriga. Refusing to give up, Nicky sought help from his old teammate, Farhad. To win her back, Farhad gave Nicky a special gift for her. The very same necklace that Jess had fallen in love with 3 years ago during their first string of heists. Farhad tells Jess, "Nicky loves you more than you know. After you two parted ways, he was so devastated that he did absolutely nothing for 2 whole years. He's a changed man now." Hearing this, Jess decides to give their relationship another chance. They begin meeting in secret, rekindling their romance away from Garriga's watchful eyes. They eventually decide to run away together, but Nicky insists on finishing one last job. He completes the device and delivers it to McEwen. McEwen is thrilled with the results. The car's performance reaches new heights, and he gladly pays Nicky the agreed $3 million. But Nicky didn't stop there. In a brilliant and risky move, he sold the same exclusive device to every single driver on the grid for $3 million each. By the end of the operation, he had raked in a staggering total of $27 million. Nicky and Jess were on the verge of making their escape when Garriga caught them. It turns out that the device Nicky sold to all the drivers wasn't a fake. It was Garriga's actual proprietary technology. Nicky had hacked into Garriga's system, stolen the source code, and sold it to every competitor on the field. Garriga was baffled. He demanded to know how Nicky managed to breach his security, especially since his computer utilized a rolling password system that changed every 5 minutes. "Hacking your system shouldn't have been possible," Garriga shouted. Nicky calmly revealed his masterstroke. He hadn't hacked the computer remotely. He had used the necklace he gave to Jess. Hidden inside that jewelry was a sophisticated spy chip. Nicky's plan relied on Jess taking that necklace into Garriga's private quarters, which she did, unknowingly acting as his Trojan horse. The chip was designed to intercept every keystroke and password. It was so sensitive that it could even pick up the microscopic vibrations of the computer's hardware. Through that tiny device, Nicky gained total access to everything Garriga was doing in real time. Using the data gathered by the spy chip, Nicky had successfully stolen everything. Upon hearing this confession, the older security man, Owens, suddenly pulled out a gun and shot Nicky in the chest. Garriga was paralyzed with fear. "You did this. You deal with it," he shouted before fleeing the scene in a panic. As it turned out, the older man wasn't just security. He was Nicky's father. He had shot his own son to save his life. Garriga is a powerful racing champion with immense wealth and influence. If he had handed Nicky over to the authorities, Nicky would have spent his life in prison. If Garriga had sought revenge, he could have had Nicky killed. By shooting him, Nicky's father staged a fatal injury to force Garriga to flee the scene and abandon the situation. Since his father was an expert, he knew exactly where to aim to make the wound look deadly without actually killing him. He treated the wound himself, and once Nicky recovered, they were free. The story ends with Nicky and his father outsmarting the world one last time.